Consider this proposal for a moment. The princess answered, I don't feel the need for lime. Close your eyes and think again. My understanding of Toro is that it's a mountain fairy, regardless of the narrow knowledge base, or a spirit whose face is higher than the human. They must suffer great losses. Before the Han dynasty, you can sit in front of the negotiating table. Suddenly, the princess opened her eyes, a cold, smiling face. That was Pro. We will fill the void that infiltrate the beasts or spirits of Kier. When he heard that, he laughed and said, Ra is like that. If possible, a grid that captures the painting and the painting. Your Majesty will be delighted. I will inform the king, Your Majesty. But in contrast to the mood of the Red Deacon, the princess crossed her arms, coldly prevented. No need. Intelligence and real-world performance are two concepts. What I need is real results. To raise more money for my future. Do you understand? The princess is fooling me. In spite of the fear of sweating, he hurriedly nodded and said yes. After it's over, the princess waved her hand and gave the order. Get back down. Red dare not disobey orders. He bowed his head and bowed his head. The princess is alone now. She tapped her finger on the table. He stared at the cup of tea. It's still smoking, thinking. Urgent task. You still have to stand on your heels in this 6. You just need a stable muscle. They can compete for the fruits of war. Bigger than the back. So my current plan is not wrong. Something to say out. At the same time, contact with Dazilla and La Sun. Even if the pressure is too high, it will be too high. Think about here. The princess burst out with a smile of contempt. I want to see if it doesn't taste good. His restless sleep. In Trong and City, it was as peaceful as any other day. Before the news bulletin board, the whole crowd is gathered to watch. Someone in the crowd spoke up. Your Majesty, there is something good. Someone else in the crowd said, I hear Your Majesty is preparing for the summer. The man who had just spoken returned to read aloud the message written on the board. That's what the bulletin board says, people. To deal with hot weather. 3 days later, the swimming pool will open. Please wait. Someone else read like that. He pointed to a strange building behind him. Bulletin board. The question is the architecture behind SAO. Someone else couldn't help but be curious. The swimming pool is looking forward to it. The scene appears, a face wearing shiny black glasses. This is the Emperor Han of our dynasty. I wear only one pair of black shorts. 6-pack body shows up on the face wearing bright glasses. 2 hands against hips. He smiles with white teeth and complains. Of course, it's the summer that people remember the most. It's the swimming pool. In front of Fong standing. It's the pool that people are talking about right now. Clear blue water feels so cool. I stood in the swimming pool for a while. Then there was Mina's cry. Missing GIA. Look at the people who have just appeared. Despite wearing glasses with no clear eyes, but on the face there are no hidden red clouds. I open my mouth, oh, a compliment. Everyone is so beautiful. In front of me are the girls in bikinis. Very hot. Nicola in the blue-purple-red face said. Dress like that in front of the kids. It feels new every time. The Emperor is not. There's no shame in asking if this is a swimsuit. Ellie feels no different than Nicola. Her face is flushed. 2 hands folded in front of the chest, a little embarrassed to ask, why do I have to wear swimsuits? Wearing clothes is not better than SAO. Luffy standing next to Ellie, covering a white cloth that covers the outfit inside. She didn't say anything like a red face. It's like Ellie and Nicola. The wind is now moving towards everyone. Take off the black glasses on your face. Ellie grinned and replied. Of course, Ellie's question is not good. Even SAO normal clothes. The water will be seen. Ellie heard Liu Feng say that. The red face was even redder. There's a hot smoke coming out of my head, and I'm confused about what to say. Mina also teased Theo when she saw that. That's what Ra is. I thought you had a new hobby. Ellie turned to look at Mina. But I can't argue with any more words. Ellie turned around without looking at them. Just teased me. Mina also found herself joking a little too much and made a reconciliation. She was still wearing a white coat. Embarrassed to tell the wind. Your Majesty, thank you for inviting me here. Even if you say that. But in her head now, she's screaming. It's embarrassing. I don't know what you Fi thinks. Laugh softly and tell her. Let's just take a break. You're also working hard this time. If you hear that, you don't say anything else. Only hesitated to respond. Everybody in the pool together. A shadow of someone. Use a very strong force to jump. It was the nearby Ellie who cried out, here's the lily. Keep your movements small. Mina and Fong are lying in the sun. On the beds, or seen on the beach. Nicola on water tray handle. Holding a glass next to Liu Feng said, the swimming pool once opened. Maybe it will attract a lot of people. Mina next door agreed. Where you can swim. Until then, we are not afraid. The whole city is so hot that it's lifeless. Nicola said more when she heard that. If the street outside can be so cool. That's good. Mina laughed except to remember how hot it was before. Department of Safety. When I went to the surveillance, I fainted. Towards the wind. I just ate the fruit and made my intention. I've been thinking about this. I'm going to make a car in Shrongen. Mina doesn't seem to understand what a sprinkler car is. After repeating these 3 words, she's a little confused. He called out to her who was playing near the pool. Asked the fire truck from Ra's research team. When you hear the call, stop playing water. Smiling, she replied, the research has been completed. Then she was given a plate of flowers by Nicola. I told her to go back to Mina and explain. Even a fire doesn't always happen. Until then, the fire trucks can change their nozzles. Normal spraying water in the city reduces the temperature. Hearing that, Mina finally understood. That's a pretty cool conclusion. I suddenly remembered something at this moment. You're getting close to the wind. Just gave Tay a description of a fan with a crank and said, that's right, Your Majesty. Once upon a time, a resident asked us for a fan. Hold your hand, remember? I don't know if he remembers or not. Your face is a little free to ride. Luffy replied, I've renovated it. To fix the handrail design. Can boot through now, very welcome. That's how Nicola came along. I remember a time ago. There's also a greenhouse designer who covers the sun. I think it's suitable for outside shops. Can avoid the heat, can also serve customers. It's like finding someone to talk to. You said one more invention. Some people are going to use ice to make a heat sink. Unfortunately, he doesn't know the principle of pepper. Mina listened to the 2 of you talking. The face is a little tired from the heat and sighs well. Until someone comes along, can make something that directly changes the temperature. That's good. The 2 of them also put their hands on their chins. Enjoyment is the motivation, pushing people forward. And then he put his hands on his knees. Looking in the distance, thinking about calculating the date. The cruise ship must be coming soon. I don't know where they are. At the Toyota Imperial Port. The boats that lead to the landing. The steps are somewhat hasty. The black-haired man screams, notice the animal in front of you. Things to know. There are monsters in the harbor. He is called Lord. If you hear that, turn around and look. Then he couldn't help but be stunned. God, what is that? It's a giant ship from the Han dynasty. In front of the ship, they look so small. Jieba, standing on the ship, exclaims this port is not small. Lin stood next to Jieba and breathed. It's finally here. But this is too old for Chang'an. Another person on SAO while looking down at the harbor. I saw a lot of people on the weapon. Are gathering at the harbor. Call everyone to look over there. Too many soldiers. I saw this scene. She banged her hand on Jieba's hand, said, looks like the host doesn't welcome us very much. Jieba assured me not to worry about giving it to me. The soldiers are gathering at the harbor right now. AI is also admiring. The purple-haired beast said this boat is too big. Light brown people agree. It seems to be made of iron. Someone else asked. Iron boat can also float SAO. Then the others turned to look at each other. Shaking my head, I don't know. There is only one called the Lord. My face is a little serious. A bunch of idiots. It doesn't matter how this boat floats. What matters is what the owner of this boat does. Up on the boat 4 days, we finally set foot on land. But I just set foot. Someone pointed to the man who got off the iron boat. Who are you? Lin replied with a confident expression. The embassy was afraid to control the Han dynasty. Send 2 precious princes to raid my country. Come here to pass on your majesty's letter of exile. The emperor of my country. The guard still has doubts in his mind. I don't know because there's a million. Related to the beast prince of his country. He reached out his hand and asked, why do I know if the National Library is real or fake? Show me. Li didn't meet him. She protested loudly for you. This has to do with relations between the 2 countries. What's a harbor guard like you entitled to see? Guardians like you can't handle it. Find someone with power here. The man heard Lin's words. I can't help but yell at you what you're saying. The people behind him also pointed their spears. The Lin people. Jieba is going to recommend something, but Lin is absolutely certain. Why does he want to scare us? The Kier harbor guard saw Lin's attitude like that, then turned the nozzle out to words. Wait there when the head swirls off. He even glanced at the link and thought, don't get threatened or show me that. It's not fake. Jieba sees Kier name compromise. Put your hand on your shoulder. You can't see your age is young. The atmosphere is very strong. Just finished. Suddenly hugged Jieba shivering, said, help me, I'm going to stand still. Jieba saw you change so quickly. The stomach laughed softly. In the imperial capital of Torala. After being reported by the harbor guard. The capital of the Tojola kingdom is black. Are eating bad meals. Without a doubt, ask the National Library. I'm talking about the 2 princes. The gatekeeper didn't dare lie and bowed his head and said yes. If you hear that, click your tongue. Say a vague sentence. I think 7 failed. Then ask them again. The guard replied that he was at the port. He kept putting the meat from the fork close to his mouth. Order to arrange a reception. The guard was ordered to leave. Suddenly, King Black called him and asked him to investigate. Don't be too enthusiastic. Don't be late. When the subordinate heard that, his expression was somewhat incomprehensible. But they only obey orders. At this time in the imperial palace of Tozola. After hearing the servant's words, King Black holds his hand to his chin and thinks. Han Dynasty opposite coast. Calculation over time. My 2 sons must have been there a long time ago. What are they sending people for now? And then the foreign missions of the Han Dynasty. To be in training to see the king. The guardian of the kingdom of Toro shouted. The Han Dynasty ambassadors arrived. Hands on your chest. Bow respectfully to His Majesty Black. Kwok Phuong Tusoa raised his hand to welcome the exemption. Then Black enters the main question. Tell me what's wrong with you. Lin laughed and replied to this. If you look at His Majesty's letter, we will know immediately. The courtier came down to get the national. For King Black, he said curiously. Get over here. Black holds the letter in his hand. Radiant happy face. Such exquisite aesthetics. Watch out, my son, they're doing in DTO. Then he opened the National Library. Very surprised face. Well, I see that with a smile full of cunning. Your eyes are cold. Suddenly, National Defense Black sat up and gripped the National Library. A face full of anger. What, my son went to the Han Dynasty? After listening to the show, it is the same. She sighed for an hour and then chalked it back up. Maybe you don't know why. King Black crossed his arms behind his back. Doesn't seem to know what to answer. We don't know how this coincides now. Lin said proudly. Don't worry, Your Majesty, we didn't do too much with the two princes. Your Highness, they even arranged a castle for them to land and rest. Kwok Phuong also felt secure after listening. He continued, well, I'll give you the money later. But the premise is, you have to keep my two sons safe. Lin assured me of this. Please rest assured. To hear this steady affirmation. The king is quite pleased. Invite guests like that. Everyone is welcome. The guard said to take Jie Ba to rest. Please follow me. Black stood on his stomach. Watch the shadow leave. When they're gone. He's just starting to float. The thunder kicked his feet into the chair. Face of the cave, spicy big mouth. That's a useless thing. Dare to use my son to intimidate me. Suddenly, Lindit came into the audience of King Black. Consult Your Majesty. Guo Fang saw him, suddenly asked Lin. What are you doing here? Lin said excitedly. I have come to give you some specialties of the Han Dynasty. There's also intelligence that I know. The king's face was filled with wonder, and he spoke for an hour. The food of the Han Dynasty to lie on the table. King Black after tasting. You must also recognize that the Han Dynasty's food is delicious. Kwok Phuong Black holds a box of num pa to eat. To hear Lena tell strange stories in the Han Dynasty. You don't believe in asking questions like the stories. For example, flying objects in the sky, iron train, black smoke spray. These things we hear are unbelievable. Consistent to say. But Your Majesty, the two Kier messengers, is sitting on the iron train spewing black smoke. If you're curious, you can go directly to the harbor. King Black doesn't seem to care. We're not arguing, Linda. I just want to ask you what you want. Is it possible to wait for my son to return to us? Lin answered His Majesty with a desperate expression. I see we shouldn't fight the Han Dynasty. Will be better. And then naturally frown. Keep talking with your face. We really are not a rival of the Han Dynasty. Kwok Phuong Black finished listening and did not eat anymore. 2 hands on the table. Angry face helpless. Tell me why I know and get back down. Lin bowed his head and said yes. National Defense Black suppressed anger. After Linner doubt. He just broke out. He punched a blow to the table. Break the table in 2. This punch causes the food on the table to distort. Fall to the floor. He seemed to speak loudly. I don't believe you're really that invincible. Right now, in the national market mat, SEO of the Torala Empire. The traders are busy offering to buy and sell. Two guests. This is the national market. Our Mart sale. You want to buy what you can buy here. Revenge merchant Lao, for workers thank you. This is the enemy promised. The staff is happy to thank you. Two people Ga and joint take advantage of time. Let's go sightseeing together. National School Mat SEO is here. Ga urgently say. Go to the rental store. Contact is not in a hurry. We wait a moment, Ga question A. Waiting for AI. When I finished speaking, the AI appeared in front of both of them. They speak up. Miss Lin. Lin laughed softly and said it was coming. Ga bewildered not knowing this is AI, also said well. A girl with long shiny pink hair. Holding a piece of paper. Walk to the radiance say. Everybody's back. Here's the report. The glass smiled liberally and replied hard. Ask people to sit down and rest before eating. I'm on the corner. 5 young men, assigned by the pink-haired beast girl, has completed the return. Standing talking to each other. You can run the roads. I've run 7 roads and I'm dying. The purple hair said. The brunette also said I'm worse. The 9 roads. The young man standing next to me raised his hand and said, the lady is very generous this time. We're rich. And he laughed. At this point, Ga and Lin walked up to these 5 people. Ga thought aesthetic surprise. These guys aren't defending the SAO team. Then Ga asked Lin what this was about. Lin held the paper that the pink-haired animal girl had just given her. Read carefully and answer nothing. I told them to go out and investigate. And then, Ninja Paper Cho Ga 3,000 points hand to paper. Her eyes lit up and said, just collect 10. 10 news related to the city will get 1 gold. It only costs 300 silver. Has completed the basic city survey. Is it very wordy? So then Lin walked over to the 5 young men and shouted. Before opening the shop, I've got a new assignment for you. The bonus is as generous as before. The 5 people who heard it all rejoiced and rejoiced. Eyes lit up, hands up, shout out. The powerful sound of the clogs next door. The 2 of them are walking into a diner. Avens the cold air just walked away. Just ordered the owner. Bring some of your best food. The owner said he was invited to sit down. The food is in front of 2 people. Juliet points to the plate of food on the table. Bagface stunned. It's not surprising to see food on the table. Tell Donut not to disparage. Eat some food to continue the mission. Aveni is drinking a cup. I heard a bunch of people talking to each other. Did you hear anything? Heard, the market sells goods from the Han dynasty. One of the people suddenly asked a question. What is the Han dynasty? AVI put the cup down for an hour. Listen to their stories. The red-haired guy in the navy suit laughed. I don't know about this either. The news is so outdated. The purple-haired guy in the navy suit agreed. That's right, I don't know. The food of the Han dynasty was the first world. It's a really famous American country. And then he disparages the food here. The food here. Even the poor of the Han dynasty hated it. Not eating. Blue-haired guy with gray hair, hands on hips. I also heard some news. I also seem to have heard. The Han dynasty had something called canned food. The food inside can be kept for more than half a year. It seems this time they usually carry a lot of stuff. Come here to sell. The orange-haired guy in the navy suit also fluttered and continued. I heard that a lot of nobles have placed orders in advance. Until then, transfer hand sold out, earn a lot. The purple-haired beast heard that and asked in surprise. Real or fake? I have to see it tomorrow. I can hear the conversations of these people. Donut came to Tai of any whispered. The news from Tojola is also very good. Looks like we just got here. Aveni coldly replied. It's not necessarily because of Toro's expertise. She looked up at the three men in navy suits. I told you to watch the other three. It's obvious that this topic was deliberately brought up. Yonez understood the situation and asked what she meant. Someone in the back asked them to do that. Aveni put the glass of water on the table and said, 8 parts are the intention of the Kier Lin, head dentist. I don't know, where did you find such a clever man? If the Lin side has started to act, our plan must also be followed. AVG reached for a cake and talked about the plan. When they finished the transaction, that's when our money comes into play. We must seize this opportunity. Johnny said with a deep sigh, I know. We also have to buy a store. Can you open the money page? You have to find someone who wants to sell. Juliet said that. Avenesi continues. It's not that annoying. The princess showed me how. Donut was surprised to ask what a. Avizi takes a bite of cake and hits it with money. Then suddenly, the dark Avji's face winced again. He sniffed at the piece of cake he had just bitten off and said angrily, This is hard to eat. Johnny is eating the cake. I see that Avizi expression. She wants her pussy. Avenesi, I want to go to the box trade. Early morning the next day, on the Torala Imperial Market. High-rise buildings also look majestic, with a 1,000-year-old banyan tree that shaded the market. Izina is standing arms crossed, leaning against the wooden crate by the wall and thinking. She remembered the time when she went to La San Lao Ren, king of the Spirit Empire. King La Shan Lao Ren is holding the national letter in his hand. Read and ask. Compensation of money. Isina stands folded hand answers. Yes, specific causes and turnover. It's all written in the National Library. If there's anything you don't understand, I can explain. King Lao Ren put the letter down on the table. And say no, just like that. Isina replied that we all conveniently thank you, Your Majesty. King Lasan Lao Ren is still a little worried. I have the most amazing control. You've been away for so many years. The first time she came back, finally let go Sao. Irana finished listening with a sad face. His gaze dropped to the ground, his glittering eyes said nothing. Igina went out of the king's library. She stood with her arms folded against the wooden crate, then sighed and said, I can't go back without seeing some people. Then Igina startled for an hour. Some people are standing and talking. The shop you're standing in front of. Why is this store so dynamic? And then one of them said, I don't know. It's like Princess Du's car. The princess stepped out of the carriage and walked towards the Isina. Princess Du stand in front of Isina Auntie Tu. 2 hands on hips. The Lord of Heaven is waiting for me to say something. I said, go into the store together. Princess Ru face worried. 2 eyes full of anticipation. I quickly asked the Ajineko if she had news of Jenny. Isina grips 2 hands of the princess to reassure her. Just calm down. Princess Du face anxious eagerly say, Sao. I may not be able to worry. She's my sister. Calm down, can't you? Before Jenny left, send me a letter. He said he wanted to take a risk with the crew. Told me not to worry. Then her tears continued. I overheard you and your father talking. I know you represent the Han dynasty. The purpose of the fleet was the Han dynasty. Izina rubbing head. Princess do pat. Comfort you, rest assured. I've met Jenny. Izina excitedly continued to talk about Jenny's situation. Now she works in Chang'an City. Let her be a drawing teacher. A lot of people respect her talent. No one raped her. Princess Ru asked back happily. Why did Izina ask again? You don't believe my words either. Princess Jesus' hand is not. She hurriedly said no, I didn't mean that. Izina teased you, put your finger on your forehead, and said, Okay, I don't mean to blame you. The princess scratched her head and laughed and said, If she lives well, I am sure. At this point, you have the mind to ask the situation of Igina. What about Igina? This time you are back and gone. No more. I think a lot of people want you back. I've always wanted you back. After listening to Izina, eyes glitter straw, choking sweetly. I can't stay in the empire. Izina turned her back coldly and continued. How many people want me back? A lot of people want me not to go back. The princess replied as if we were protecting her. She put her hands on the box and said thank you. But I've found someone worth following. That person is the current king of the Han dynasty. This time I came back to help him. That's it. The princess with a sad expression said so. If so, I wouldn't advise you. Then the princess hurriedly said goodbye. Today I report from. She will come to see you later. Wait. Then from within, Izina pulled out a small purple square box. Hold up, keep talking. It has come. Do me a favor and go. Outside the shop. Soldiers are standing at the door. Stop letting people in. The people standing around the shop whispered. She said what the princess came here for. The person next to me replied, I don't know what is special about this store. Attract the Emperor 7. Suddenly, there was a sound of the door opening. The people are out and out. Izina opened the door to let the princess out. Right now, Princess Du is still immersed in happiness. Happy to be Izina, gave the purple box. Princess Du laughed and said, I finally bought it, Isa replied happily. If you are satisfied, welcome next time. Princess Du happily came back to talk. 7. We all know. The Han dynasty's trade was outstanding. If you go to the Lawson Empire to sell things, be sure to tell me, said Izina, bowing respectfully. Yes, said Igina. Get in the carriage back to the royal palace. People gathered around to watch. Igina says goodbye Du. Princess leisurely walk. Spirit girl purple by far. Talk to the person next to you. Hey, you hear me? Spirit girl pink dress. The future of the Han dynasty can be. The princess herself came here to buy. Then the purple spirit girl rushed out to where Igina asked. What does your landlord end up selling? The blue-clothed spirit is also tired of speaking. That's right, what's the price? Izina on purple box handle. Just like the box that was given to the princess. Raise your hand. Mainly selling makeup today. This is a trade only in the Han dynasty. It's a thing that makes people more beautiful. Chimpanzee girls with bright eyes. Mouth gaping amazingly. The girl in pink asked how beautiful she was. Spirit purple dress excitedly follow the words ignore it. I want to buy something that 7 likes. Izina stood at the door looking towards the princess carriage. The princess even lifted the veil. Look at the Igina. I can't believe it, Igina. Princess Du remembers Igina's once dark past. You say you're from the past. And the current image of Isina. Laugh, laugh, talk happy. Princess Du aesthetic now can also laugh like that. Is the person who changed her name Sao? Suddenly, the princess was a little worried. There is a man. Can make Isina think worthy to be loyal. We're making stuff for women. The princess thought again. What kind of person is this guy after all? Isina will not be fooled. This time at the school. A skyscraper has been completed. Put your hand on the elevator switch. Your mouth says that. Save the wind. Look at our beautiful girls, Mina. Ellie and Nicola, and I'm going to start. Ellie standing next to. Raise your hands and start to go. Nicola, on the other hand, said with a worried expression. There's really no danger. Say and save the wind definitely pull the work. The machine systems inside start to move. Mina saw that, and she screamed. Ellie is excited to say that she's really moving. 4 people in the elevator, Nina, Ellie, and Milan cheered endlessly. His Majesty Liu Feng said, look out before. Find the plant energy source black durian fruit in DTO. The elevator can operate normally. Ellie inquired again about the young master. If you've used black durian fruit as moving energy, it's called an elevator. The wind also ran out of words for an hour. I don't know how to explain this. Then the confused face continued. Because later on, I'm going to use electricity to control this thing. Ellie was surprised for an hour. Save Feng aesthetic. I can't say. Ra used to call this an elevator. Suddenly, the elevator stopped. Everybody gets out of the elevator and goes into the room. Mina rushed straight to the desk and put her hands on the table. Admiring the connection. Well, the top floor is like this. Ellie ran out the window. She uttered an hour. Here, you can see the whole city. Ellie's eyes lit up in her gaping mouth, she said. This place can look very far. The whole city can be seen. Ellie glinted back to the wind and said, Young master, if we can come here to work later. That's good. You will see the city with a sense of accomplishment. Liu Feng Tong. That's what you intend. I raise my hand and continue. Important people near the imperial palace. There will be more and more. If you want to distribute people in and out, too big of a risk to safety. So I'm going to. Most of the basic stuff goes to the top floor here. Later, the emperor would be in charge. Decision. Ellie heard that, laughed excitedly, and said boom. Nicola seems afraid of heights. See that Mina playing fisting. She pulled her out the window to see. Ellie continued her thoughts with the wind. I found a good place. This tallest building is near the center of Trong and city. If we're all gathered here, people work more conveniently. The gay man replied yes. Your Majesty looked at the distance and pondered. Something. It looks like the area of Trong is very large. But they're mostly 2-story buildings. It's time to build tall buildings. To move into the next phase of school. Suddenly, Mina called out. Mina looked closely at the people on the ground and continued. It's chilly. Sao Ellie agrees. Holding the document in such a panic. Is looking for us Sao. A moment later, Siley was in the room on the top floor. You rush into the report. Oh, Lady Ellie. Miss Nicola, Ellie asked in surprise. Why is Siley so impatient? Siley hurriedly handed the document to Ellie to read and say, Yes, There is a very urgent part of the document. Give it to Miss Alley.